Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.
Welcome to all.
History is made of stories.
In this episode, we'll be focusing on the concept of hyper-personalization in HR and its potential impact on engagement.
As labor shortages have begun to affect most business sectors, companies have developed clever solutions to draw talent.
One approach is to think of job candidates and employees as consumers and try to satisfy their every desire. You shift from a segmented approach, designed to attract a particular category of people, to a fully individualized one.
Or even hyper-individualized, as Jean Mitchell Kay of BCG suggests in an interview on BFM Business. But does this approach, which aims to satisfy people's unique desires, have an impact on their engagement? So, hyper-personalization and engagement, what's the story?
Famed sociologist Emile Durkheim's Anami theory provides a framework for analysis and interesting insight into this situation.
Anami theory tells us that while individuals' desires are infinite, the means of any institution to satisfy them are limited. It also tells us that as individualism increases, social norms hold less sway over people. This is what he calls Anami.
He also adds another dimension. As the power of social norms decreases, so does solidarity between people. It's easy to see the push and pull between the individual and society.
And when you analyze the factors that contribute to a lack of well-being at work, or think about what contributes to maintaining engagement among employees, you quickly arrive at the concept of meaning.
So, to sum things up, engagement depends on three things. 1. They have to feel they belong to a project that lends meaning to their efforts. 2. They need to feel they can contribute. And 3. There has to be moral and financial compensation.
Right, and when you look at the Great Resignation phenomenon in the US, you realize that people aren't leaving their jobs because they've found El Dorado. They haven't found work they can do from wherever whenever while improving their standard of living.
No, it's not that. It's more about the lockdowns that led employees to think more seriously about the meaning of life and, by extension, work-life balance. And even if we take the pandemic out of the question, people are increasingly invested in finding the meaning in their lives.
Feeling like you are a part of a meaningful project whose scope reaches beyond the company, and especially beyond a few short-term indicators, not only fulfills your need to feel useful, it also builds team spirit.
This is a key contributor to engagement. Without the collective mindset, engagement becomes self-serving, and that's not really engagement at all.
At least not the kind companies are after. They want a form of engagement that fuels their own success.
And that's where hyper-personalization, which is a bit like clientelism, can be risky.
Trying to satisfy individual desires, which are infinite, with inherently limited institutional means, you increase the risk of Anami.
And as Anami increases, the collective mindset breaks down, making it more difficult for employees to be truly engaged.
In other words, the more you focus on individuals, the more you decrease group cohesion. And collective engagement is what a company needs. Without it, the business would cease to exist.
The hyper-personalization trend is an opportunistic response to the need to retain talent, but it's short-sighted. Long-term, it starts to eat away at the feeling of group belonging.
If we continue down the hyper-personalized road, we may completely kill the collective mindset. If that happens, the company becomes nothing more than a collection of mercenaries after nothing but money brought together by circumstances alone.
And that's not a great situation for any company.
To recap, the hyper-personalization of HR might be useful as a short-term solution to attract candidates or meet employees' increasingly demanding expectations, but it must be employed carefully because it poses a real threat to group cohesion. Is that right?
Exactly right. Way to make a long story short. Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.